Instagram Live. I'm going to be joined by the Halal Sexpert, Dr. Shaakira Abdullah, who is a Muslim sexologist. She has a Ph.D. in Human Sexuality, and she's also a nurse. So I'll be speaking to Dr. Shaakira Abdullah, who is famously known as the Halal Sexpert. Halal Sexpert. She is an American Muslim woman who is a sexologist, and she also has a PhD in human sexuality. I'll be speaking to Dr. Shaakira hopefully when she joins about her career, some of the work and courses that she offers, as well as an upcoming retreat that she has for women, a sexual wellness retreat, which I believe is taking place in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States of America between, I think, the 21st and 24th of July. So you can check that out. But again, hopefully when Dr. Shaakira joins, I'll be speaking to the Halal Sexpert, Dr. Shaakira Abdullah, who offers many courses on sexuality for singles, couples, and parents, where she teaches sex ed within a God conscious framework. It's open for Muslims and non Muslims. I know she's going to be joining, so let me see if I can send her an invite. So, just for the benefit of those of you who are joining, I'll be speaking to Dr. Shaakira Abdullah, who is known as the Halal Sexpert, Human Sexuality. She offers a number of courses for singles, parents, and couples on sex ed. She offers courses on fellatio, teaching women about fellatio, how to perform fellatio, oral sex on their husbands. Obviously, women's only, private only classes. And she also has an upcoming course which is taking place on July, the sexual wellness course, which I'm interested to kind of hear what the course entails and some of the great work she's doing for the Muslim community, not only in the States, but I understand that she's traveled to different parts of the world offering her sexual wellness courses. So again, just for the benefit of those of you who are joining, I'll be speaking to Dr. Shaakira Abdullah, who is the Muslim, sorry, who is the Halal Sexpert. How can I try and add her? Okay, she is, hopefully she's going to join. Oh, it says she's unable to join. I'm getting that problem again. Okay, I'm having this issue. I'm getting a message that says that Dr. Shaakira is unable to join. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me try if I can add her again. Okay, go live. Bismillah. Hopefully it'll connect. Unless Instagram has blocked me again. You know. Wa
Alaikum.
alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Thank you for joining me. I had tried to do a quick introduction, but before we get into it, do you mind giving a quick elevator pitch, introducing who you are and the great work that you do before we dive into the topic at hand?
Absolutely. So my name is Dr. Shaakira Abdullah. I also go by the Halal Sexpert. I am a sexologist and sexuality educator. I primarily provide sexuality education to Muslim parents, Muslim parents, couples, and singles, and helping them become their best spiritual and sexual selves.
Very well said. Very well said. So I've been a fan and a follower of Dr. Shaakira for
Of
a
you?
number of years.
I've
Yeah, I
been a fan
appreciate
of you.
no, I appreciate the work that you do, and especially given, I mean, especially given that I mainly like to amplify the voices of people that I respect and appreciate, especially those who are Black, Muslim, and women. And you tick all three boxes. And again, in a similar line of work. So I'm glad that we've been able to connect. I know we've communicated um, online a few years ago, but I'm glad to have this live and also to hear not only about your work but the upcoming retreat. But before we go into the retreat and to hear about your career and how you got into teaching human sexuality and becoming a sexologist, can you break down what is what is a halal sex, but especially for those who are maybe not Muslim who might not understand what does halal mean and why is halal sex? But so do you mind just breaking that down first?
Yes. So first of all, it is an honor to have a live with you. You are like the GOAT. You are the greatest of all time when it comes to Islamic sexuality and sex education and everything. Like your book, subhanAllah, opened my eyes, subhanAllah. So I just want to say thank you, and it's an honor to be here with you. But the halal sexpert, halal means permissible. So from permissible for Muslims to engage in different acts, and just like a broad term for just permissibility. So for me as a halal sexpert, I primarily focus on serving the Muslim population. So being the halal sexpert is that I teach sexuality, but within the boundaries of Islam. So within the boundaries of what God has said is permissible for us to do. And I'm just very intentional about that, yes.
Right, right. And what motivates you or inspired you to get into the work that you're doing?
So for me, I started off my career in nursing. So I was a nurse first, and I got my doctorate in nursing. And for my doctoral study, we have to do a study to graduate. I was kind of like not sure what to do, but I went to this nursing conference, and this amazing sexuality educator who was also a nurse. Her name is Dr. Loretta Jamont, and she was doing a lot of sex education curriculums in a lot of innovative spaces. So like barbershops, hair salons, churches, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it in the masjid. Like we don't talk about sex like that. I'm gonna do a study in the masjid. So mashallah, she was my mentor. She helped me. I took one of her curriculums and I infused it with Quran and Sunnah, and I kind of made it tailored to Muslim girls. And then I got support from a few imams who was able to help me get into the masjid and convince the masjid that we need to do this curriculum and help me, promote it and help me get the girls in the masjid. So that was my first introduction to doing human sexuality. So after I completed that study and completed that nursing degree, Dr. Loretta was like, did you like this? I was like, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. She's like, if you really want to do this for your community, you should go to Widener University and get your Ph.D. in human sexuality. And I was like, but I just got this doctorate degree. She said, no, that's not enough. In nursing, they don't talk about sex enough. You don't have what you need if you really want to do this for your community. So I said, okay. So I got married unexpectedly. Alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me to get married. And then I took a year off, and then I started the human sexuality program at Widener. And alhamdulillah that Allah, guided me through her to do that, because it really opened up my eyes at that time. Like that curriculum that I did in the masjid, it was abstinence based. And I thought when it came to Islam and sex, that's all we could talk about. It's just save yourself for marriage, and that's it when it comes to sex education for Muslims. But being in the Widener's program just helped me see how sex education is so broad, how it involves so much, and it's not just limited, to that. And then even when I started digging, like reading your books and then learning about all these different hadiths and the Quran and different things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about our bodies, and just like, subhanAllah, like, yeah, Allah did create our bodies. So why is this dirty thing? Really opened up my eyes to see how sexuality for Muslims is so inclusive, and how Islam is such a sex positive religion, and that so much work is needed within our communities. So that's what really inspired me to get started.
Mashallah, mashallah. And I saw on your website that you spent some time in Egypt. Is that correct? Was that before you delved into studying human sexuality?
Yeah, so that was as a child. I was
Okay.
only 10. I think I was like 10 or 11.
Okay, right, okay.
I was born and raised Muslim in
Yeah.
the U.S., in New Jersey, and my parents were both Black Muslims, and they really wanted to make sure Islam and Quran was a huge part of my foundation. So they sent me to like the best Quran classes and Arabic classes, and they even sent me to Egypt like over the summer to really get a grasp on the language. And I loved Islam until I got to like high school, and just having a lot of peer pressure from my friends and everything, and they really like idolized having this boyfriend. So like being in this relationship was like on a pedestal, and all I knew was like sex before marriage was haram, don't do it. But no one told me like, how do I navigate through these feelings and these attractions that I'm having as this single person in America, and this Muslim, this young person in America, and everyone else is having sex and I can't. What am I supposed to do? So long story short, I found out I was pregnant just 2 months after my high school graduation. And my parents were like, what? How did this happen? Like, we put you in the best programs. Like, we invested so much into you. How did this happened? So alhamdulillah, it supported me and helped me, and I got through nursing school and everything. But I didn't realize, and even then I still struggled, before I got married, with how do we navigate through this? And I realized that I wasn't alone, that a lot of Muslims struggle, single Muslims, youth, and even beyond that, even in our marriages, that we struggle with this piece of us, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with our sexuality. And we, have to learn how to implement on how to apply like our Islamic values and our beliefs into practice. Like, how do we put this into practice when it comes to our feelings and our beliefs? So that's what I do as a halal expert, is to help parents help their children, but also single people live their best single lives, and navigate through their sexuality as a single person. And then even our married couples, like, we have this section B, this taboo thing. Like, that's not how Islam was. That's not how the Prophet Muhammad sallam, when he talked about sex, it wasn't like this hush hush thing. He was modest about it, but it was, you know, a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how we should look at it. And how we kind of, like, a lot of Muslims and a lot of Muslim communities have adopted this culture and this view of how sex is just this dirty thing, this taboo thing. Don't talk about it, when and that's a problem. So that is really what led me to do the work that I do too.
Amazing, amazing. And sorry, just for the benefit of those of you who have joined, I've seen a few people during the last few minutes. I'm speaking to Dr. Shaakira Abdullah, who is famously known as the Halal Sexpert. She is a sexologist. She also has a PhD. She's got 2 PhDs, one in nursing and another one in human
Well,
sexuality. She offers a number. Sorry.
my doctorate in nursing is not a PhD. It's a
Oh, sorry.
doctorate in practice. So it's more clinical, because I'm a nurse practitioner. So I diagnose and prescribe and all that. So it's more clinical, a clinical doctorate. But the PhD is in the human sexuality. So
Okay. She also offers a number of courses online on teaching singles, couples, as well as parents about sexuality from a God conscious framework. She also has got an upcoming retreat, a women's only retreat, which we're going to hear about a little bit later, which is going to be, I think, taking place in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. But before we delve into that, you spoke about some of the challenges that you faced and a number of young people face in terms of navigating their desires and sexuality and things like that. I'm just wondering, did like your teachers, both when you was in Egypt, the time you spent in Egypt as well as in the US, did they not speak about like sex, or was it? I know you mentioned it was absent only approach. I'm just trying to understand where this came from in terms of people being reluctant, especially those who are adults and Muslims, because from my understanding, obviously, they, I'm sure, well versed or should be well versed that Islam, like you mentioned, is a sex positive religion. It does speak about the realities of sex, both for people who are single and those who are married. And so I'm just wondering, why do you think there was that disconnect, like where people are really struggling to communicate or speak? So I'll be honest, growing up, the education in some quarters I received was just don't get a girl pregnant. Now, of course, we know that Islamically we're not supposed to indulge, but maybe again because I'm a boy, but it was somewhat either don't get a girl pregnant or just be careful. Now, I'm not saying that was not I'm not saying that's not ideal, but they understood the realities. Some people were unable to kind of have that conversation whatsoever. Especially I saw that probably with women, but I think there was more of an acceptance with men to have that, with young boys to have that conversation, but it was kind of a thing of maybe being more careful. Do you find that the educators and the imams that is it that they ignore that women have desires as well? Or I'm just wondering, why is it that people were not engaged to kind of have that conversation with young people?
I think it's a double standard.
Okay.
I think even growing up with a brother, and I've seen how my parents personally, and then seeing, you know, having friends, and it's like, oh, it's my son, and that's my, you know, he got a girlfriend. Oh wow, like you're doing it. It's like, that's not okay. Like, who said that was okay? So I think there's a double standard in the community as well, that with our boys versus our girls. And then, you know, so with the girls, it's kind of like, oh, you know, she has to be pious, she has to be keep your legs closed, you know, you can't talk to any boys, you know, this is my daughter, so I gotta protect her and all that kind of stuff. But it's the same way with our men. If we want our men to be good husbands, our boys to be good husbands, we have to, you know, let them know that they are valuable and that they are worthy of marriage. And it's not, this is how, you know, our girls are valuable, our Muslims are valuable, period. That we just don't have sex with anyone, that Allah wants us to have this beautiful experience with our husband, you know, with our spouses, and to look forward to that, and to help them see the value in that, because they're exposed constantly to so many different messages from the media, you know, social media, their friends and everything else. It's kind of like they start to idolize, which I did at one time, have like dating, and that, you know, I just want to be in this relationship and I just want to be in love, and you hear the songs and the movies and all of that plays a part. So if we as parents or as that community is not letting them know how beautiful and amazing and valuable they are, and how Allah wants them to experience pleasure, but within the best way. So within, within marriage and with their spouse. And that's something to look forward to, versus just, wasting their time with anybody who doesn't, who may not want what's good for them, or, have this, beautiful spiritual union like we have, with marriage. So I think there's a double standard, with parents in Egypt. I don't remember talking about sex at all. I think at that time I was still really young, like I was only 10. So it wasn't until I got back, like I said, and I started, I was fine the first few years, and I was, really like on this imam high. But then I think later on when I got into high school was when it was kind of like, oh, there's this boy thing, and there's like, now I'm, my body is changing, and now I have all these attractions, and now my friends are dating, and then I listen to the music and the TV and all that. So then I think my focus of life kind of like shifted. So that's when it started. And I think parents in the community was pretty much, it was like kind of like this unspoken rule that, sex is haram. You can't have a boyfriend, you can't have a girlfriend. That's it. So it's like, okay, well, I just have to hide it, or I just have to like, find my way to do that. But no one really talked about the why and the beauty of marriage, and why this is a rule. So that's why it's really important for me to teach that to parents, to talk, to have conversations with your children. That's so, why is this important?
Very well said. Very well said. I like that you spoke about the double standard. And again, just for the benefit of those who maybe misunderstood that point, those double standards, is that from the religion, or is that some Muslims' understanding or culture? Do you mind explaining? Is those double standards, is that what the religion teaches, or is that some Muslim practices or understandings, cultural understandings?
So no, that double standard is not from Islam at all. It's really from our own cultural family baggage, I would say, that needs to be disrupted. That we have to, really understand what Islam says about this, and not just, infuse our own ideas, or like our own messages that we receive from our families or from our environment, our culture. That's not Islam. That's not religious.
Thank you. Now, again, I just wanted to make sure that clearly is understood, especially for people listening, because unfortunately, there is that double standard, like you said, and unfortunately, some people think it comes from the religion, when it's, as you mentioned, it's really from people's cultures or people's misunderstandings in terms of what the religion teaches. Now, before we get into your retreat, because obviously I know we definitely need to talk about that and promote that a lot so you get more sales. But before we get into that, I understand you've initially started teaching parents and youth, is that right? And then you moved into couples. What was if you do mind speaking, like the journey in terms of, because again, like I said, I've been following you for years, but I know that initially you was doing a lot of work for like parents and teaching parents about sex ed for their youth, and then teaching young people as well. And then you moved into singles and married couples. Do you mind explaining what that journey and the type of courses and services that you provide, first for parents, and then we can move into to couples and singles?
Yes. So I actually started with youth because, like I said, when I did my first study with the Muslim girls in the masjid, I was really passionate, and I thought like sex education, again, was only abstinence education, and that's where I kind of had to stick. So I had this whole nonprofit organization, which I, inshallah, plan to one day go back into that. But after COVID, we kind of shifted. But anyway, I just doing youth workshops. And then once I got into learning how sexuality education is so broad, I shift the focus to being more like marriage prep. So we started, not only talking about abstinence, but also talking about how to prepare for marriage and different things about pleasure and learning about their bodies and that type of thing. But then again, as I became more educated, and then my friends, I had, friends who are married and single, and they would say, I love how you do these workshops, but I never got sex education as a child. Like, I would love to come to your workshops or do something for us, like us as, single people or married people. And then it was just like more friends like saying, we need sex education too. So that's what shifted me to start doing workshops for married couples. And then with the parents, it was my youth coming to me and saying, Dr. Shaakira, I can only talk to you about sex. Like, you're the only one who I can talk to and I feel comfortable with talking about my body or relationships or anything like that. And I was like, but what about your parents? I was like, I cannot talk to my parents about this because you talked to your parents growing up. And I was like, you know what? I guess I couldn't. So I see where you're coming from. I'm like, well, that's a problem because there's only one of me, and I definitely want to be a resource for, you know, the Muslim community as in general, but, you know, they should be the primary sex educators in the household. Like, you should feel comfortable and safe because they're there. They're going to be there when you have something. You want to go home and talk to them. So that's what started one of my courses called Halal Sex Talks, which really teaches Muslim parents how to talk to their kids and how to have these conversations from ages 3 all the way to 21. So you're helping them develop, just how we're helping them become the best adults that they can be, like as they're on their journey to adulthood. And I think Muslims in general don't realize that sex education is a part of their Islamic education. So just as important as it is to teach them Quran and Sunnah, we also need to teach them about their bodies and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created their bodies and how a lot of it is so intertwined in Islam, like how to make a ghusl and when are they supposed to make a ghusl. That's sex education. Learning about their body parts and learning about, you know, how to be, you know, a good spouse in the future and learn about, you know, their menses and all these different things and pregnancy, all these different things that are so, can be so beautiful. It doesn't have to be like this dirty thing, and you can definitely connect it with Quran and Sunnah so that they see the meaning and the beauty in it, and it should help build their faith. As they're also, I think I look at children as new shahadas and how they're just like new shahadas and they're still developing their spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how we help cultivate that through teaching them. So it's so important that we teach sex education in the household.
Great. No, lovely. Well said.
Yeah. Sure.
And then can you touch on a little bit about some of the courses that you offer for singles and for married couples as well?
Yeah. Yes. So, yes, when I started to do more workshops for married couples and singles, I have one of my first courses was But What That Mouth Do. And that course is for married and single women only. And it's really about how to use your mouth in different ways with your spouse. So not only in the physical sense, but also with communication, and also the impact of like with mental intimacy and how that affects mental foreplay and how that affects how we feel, because you know, as women, sex is as just as a emotional experience as it is a physical one. So learning, taking a deeper dive into that, and then also the physical sense of oral sex with so how to teaching them different skills, demonstrating, also giving them an opportunity to practice with me private, and this is a private class, and also teaching them about different Islamic rulings, because a lot of women and Muslims in general don't know that. So that's one of the courses. And then I went into another course about female pleasure called Cliteracy. And that one is really, because I think a lot of women in general, when they think about sex, they're like, oh, it's just about pleasing the man and pleasing my husband. And it's like, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a clitoris for you. Like, you have a whole organ that's only job is for pleasure. And subhanAllah, like, this is such a blessing. And I think women in general don't prioritize their pleasure. I have a lot of married Muslim clients and women clients who have this idea like, oh, I'm not having an orgasm, or I don't know, you know, and they just kind of sweep it under the rug, or they don't prioritize it and don't see it as important, and how they are worthy to experience this pleasure, and how their pleasure should be a sign of Allah's greatness, and how that should be a reason for you to say, you know, get closer to your Lord and connect to him. So you're not experiencing that pleasure, then you're missing out on what he designed for you. So I think it's important. So Cliteracy was all about teaching women about the different orgasms they can experience, how to experience them, teaching them more about their bodies. I think women in general don't know a lot about themselves. So that's mainly with that course. And then I have another course called Talk Dirty to Me, which is all about, like, again, verbal foreplay and how to building a confidence to be able to say different things and what that all entails.
The Halal Sex Talks
And
live, is that another?
yeah, Halal Sex Talks is for parents. So that course is parents, and that's what I did my dissertation study on. So we paused teaching it for the dissertation, but now that's over, and we're working on making that course into be like a self-paced online course where, you know, Muslims everywhere can be able to be in the course. It's not going to be live, so it's on your own time, and that should be available, inshallah, in the fall.
In the fall, is that
Like fall,
British, sorry. What is that? Is that autumn? What
That's
is
like,
that?
yes, it's like autumn,
Autumn, right, okay,
autumn
the fall. Okay.
2023, yes.
Yeah, communication barrier. When you said the fall, I was like, who's falling down? Okay. Okay, great. So you've got the cliteracy talk there was another course actually I saw. You still got it, sister. Are you still offering that? Is that still
Yes,
available?
that's
Do you mind?
yeah. So you still got it, sis. Is I built for pregnant women and also women who are in postpartum, and
Okay.
even
Awesome.
yes. So I think during that time period, because I experienced myself, my son is 3 now, but our body changes, and I think women have a challenge with getting back to that sexual piece of themselves with their spouse after they had this baby, or even as they're pregnant, and then again as they go into postpartum. So that course is really about helping women, recognizing that women, you still got it, sis, and how to really go on that journey with their body changing, but still being able to experience pleasure in different ways because their pleasure areas may change, and how to be okay with that, but also be able to try different things that will be best fitting for them.
Mashallah. Yeah, someone said, sorry, I'm not very good at reading the comments, but someone said, Allah Mubarak, your courses cover all stages and seasons of life. Mashallah, that's a nice testimony. So those courses, I know you mentioned the Halal Sex Talks one is currently on hold, but the others, are they all readily available, like on your website if someone wants to download and like watch them, or are they available like now?
So so all of them are available now, except Halal Sex Talks. And then, but what that mouth do, we do a few times a year. That's a live online course,
Yeah.
just to protect the privacy of the sisters who are in the course. That one is not recorded, but we're trying to figure out a way where it can be like on demand type of thing. But I love it being live because that way, you can demonstrate with me, and then we can practice together, and we can build your confidence. I think sometimes sisters get in their head so much, and they're like, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? And that takes away from their pleasure. So I like to be able to give them my full attention in that course.
Mashallah. Mashallah. Again, just for the benefit of people who have recently joined, I'm speaking to Dr. Shaakira Abdullah, who is the Halal Sexpert. She is a Muslim sexologist. She also has a doctorate, a PhD doctorate in
Yeah.
nursing, in family nursing, yeah, and a PhD in human sexuality. She facilitates courses for parents, singles, married couples on a range of subjects from teaching kids about sex and sex education, female pleasure. She's got a number of courses which we've spoken about, which you can check on her website, the halalsexpert.com. So it's one S, right? The Halal Sexpert, not sex expert. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Halal Sexpert, and obviously I'll leave a link once I save this, but the halalsexpert.com. Obviously, you can go to her Instagram page and see the necessarily links to some of the courses that she offers. So she's got Halal Sex Talks Live, which is for parents, teaching kids about sex ed, which is going to be released again in the fall.
Or all the
The full Americans, amazing. Uh, Literacy, which is a course teaching people, both men and women alike, about the female anatomy and obviously most importantly the clitoris and female pleasure. You've still got it, sis, which is a course for pregnant and postpartum women. Talk Dirty to Me, which is a course which explores foreplay, both verbal and physical foreplay. And then she has got some other courses and master classes such as But What That Mouth Do, which is a course on the fellatio or oral sex. That's a private class for women only, which again, she offers that class as well as a cliteracy masterclass. So again, all of those, if you want more information, please go and check out Dr. Shakira's website, as well as obviously, of course, her Instagram. I now want to hear a little bit more about your upcoming retreat, which I understand is going to be taking place in July. It's the end of the 20. Yeah, do you mind talking a bit about that sexual wellness retreat? What does it entail? Who is the target audience? And a bit about what you're going to be covering, please.
yes. So that retreat is called Reclaiming Me. This will be our 4th retreat actually. So yes, this in Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S. It is July 25th to the 27th. So this will be our 4th one. So we started this in 2022, and our first one was in Florida in the U.S. and then we went to Spain that same year in 2022. Then in 2023,
Really?
yeah, in 2023 we went to Morocco, and this is our fourth one. In back in the U.S. in Georgia, in Atlanta. So super excited. So my goal for this retreat was to really create like an escape for Muslim women or women of faith, to be able to come and become their best spiritual and sexual selves. I love being able to offer online courses, but I feel like as women, we're always busy. Like we're constantly doing things, even if we're single, like we're working, we're helping others, and we just don't have like our own little time to just completely like break away from our busyness of life to go to this beautiful place to learn about yourself and to learn about your worth and feel good about yourself and have all these different complementary activities where you're learning, you're engaging, they're interactive, they're not like a lecture. Also treating yourself to different things, having an in-house chef and having yoga, like sexual rejuvenation yoga, yoni steaming, and those different things to really focus on, you. So that's what the retreat is really all about, mashallah. It's really just creating for Muslim women and women of faith to become their best spiritual and sexual selves.
Okay. And if people want to find out more and purchase tickets, is that also on your website or is that on your Instagram? Where can people find out more?
Yes, so you can click the link in my bio and it's there at the top. You can so there's two opportunities for you to be able to come to the retreat. So we have the day passes, which is a 3-day pass, which is great for sisters who live locally in Atlanta, where they it doesn't include overnight lodging, but it does include the whole retreat. So offer, for the whole day, all 3 days, the full retreat. And then we also have 3-day pass with accommodations, which is it includes overnight lodging, like a few doors down away from the retreat, so that you can come to the retreat. You don't have to worry about where you're going to stay, and you can stay just a few doors down. And these are beautiful, luxurious mansions. Mashallah, I wanted to, women to feel safe and comfortable, creating a safe space, but I also wanted it to be beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves beauty. So seeing that and having this experience with your sisters and also learning about yourself and how to become your best spiritual and sexual self is really important to me. So I would love for women to come. We have just a few spaces left. And I think definitely by the end of this month, we're going to shut registration down because I like to keep it nice and intimate. So just for women to create this space that's really comfortable for women.
Amazing. No, it sounds like a great resource that you're providing for Muslims and for women in general, to be honest. So it's good. It's wonderful to hear. You mentioned, so you've had a retreat in, you say Morocco and Spain. Just wondering, how was that like? What did you find cultural differences, or yeah, what was that like?
So I guess, let's see. I almost got in trouble in the airport because I bring stuff with me in my luggage. So it was real. And I didn't even think about that. And going into Spain,
Morocco or into Spain?
Morocco, both of them. Really, actually, more so Spain, believe it or not, which I was surprised. Like they were really like going through my stuff and like, laughing and calling their friends and like looking, all my like in my carry-on bag because I had, different toys and different, we talk about BDSM, we talk about kinks, we talk about all these different things. So that was in my carry-on bag. So they were just like, what is this stuff about? So I had to explain how I'm an educator. And I think one of the guards had wanted to like compensate myself, and I was like, please don't do that. Like I'm so only by Allah's mercy, they just said, okay, but next time at least have some type of documentation. I don't know where I'm supposed to get that from, but anyway, so alhamdulillah, they let me through. The attendees, most of them were international. So we had some sisters from the US, we had sisters from Australia, we had sisters from Saudi Arabia, we had sisters from all over the world, mashallah. So that was beautiful. And just bringing in, a lot of us had the same type of experiences with sex being this taboo thing and not being talked about, and this shame that they harbored and built up, since childhood, and now being able to talk about it and learn about it. They were really just honored to be able to do that. So I was honored to be able to have that space for them. When we went to Morocco, it was the same type of international type of attendees who were there. I was not stopped I think I got stopped once in Morocco going there, with my carry-on bag. But they, I think it was a woman guard, and she just said, okay, she didn't give me like a hard time. But that was pretty much it. But it was a great experience.
MashaAllah. Someone actually did ask, are you planning to host do a retreat in the UK?
Oh, that's a good idea. I can look into that, especially now that I have a lot of time. I'm so happy, so much so that this PhD is over. So now I have more time to make, more courses, inshallah, in design, maybe even more retreats at different spaces. But yes, definitely you can inbox me and give me suggestions of different places, and me and my team can start working on that. That would be amazing. Maybe even have Habeeb come. That would be great to do a class, inshallah.
Inshallah. And again, a couple of questions that some people have asked, and I thought actually be quite good to kind of clear up. The first one is the retreat just for married women only?
No, it is for married and single women. And I think it's so important for single women to attend, because I think it's so important for you to know about your body before you add on this whole other person, and before you get into like I think we have this idea that, oh, I need a spouse to feel sexy, or I'm not gonna, and my sexual confidence is going to depend on how he feels about me. When your sexual confidence is independent of anyone, it's all about how you feel about you. So you should be able to fill up your full cup of sexual confidence and say, I'm sexy, come join me. So I think it's important absolutely for single women to attend. So this retreat is definitely for single women and married women, to learn, wherever you are in your spiritual and sexual journey. My goal is to elevate you and help give you the tools, the confidence, and the knowledge that you need to continue to grow.
Great. And if a woman is not religious, she doesn't follow any particular faith, is she also welcome to attend?
She is welcome to attend, but as long as she knows that I'm going to talk about God. Like, I'm going to center Islam, and center our beliefs and values. So if she's okay with that, then absolutely you're welcome to come. But yes, I cater to that belief system.
Great. And another question, will the courses be recorded? If someone wants to their privacy, like, are you going to be filmed? Someone asked, would you be recording the courses and putting on social media?
No, not for the retreat. No, the retreat is strictly in person. Sometimes I have some content, some photographers doing stuff for me. So like maybe some content, so maybe like a clip or something for social media, or just to get the atmosphere so that the next retreat people will want to come. But as far as the courses and even the identity of the sisters attending, because I know this is very private, just to getting them to come. So I don't want them to feel uncomfortable in any way. But no, it will not be recorded.
No. That's great. And just obviously with the wonderful work that you're doing with the different retreats, the courses, do you also, I know you said you mentioned you started working in the masajids. Are you still continuing doing work like with mosques and maybe like some religious leaders or imams who might be struggling to kind of connect with the youth and women? So they might, just wondering, are they working with people like yourself to try and impart the knowledge that you're sharing?
Yeah. Yes, they are. Even with my last dissertation, when I did the whole parent course, one of my chairs was Dr. Tahir Wyatt, he has a PhD, and he's a imam here in Philadelphia in the U.S. And he was actually an imam at the Masjid in Medina for a while. So he's very knowledgeable Islamically, and I always tell him, you're a scholar, I'm not, so definitely correct me or help guide me through different things. So I think it's important for sexologists like us to be able to connect with those people who can, like those imams who understand how to speak, I guess, the language, and to other imams and other leaders, Islamic leaders, to understand that this is something important and something that we should be talking about, to kind of break through that barrier. So I have been working through that, and even with different big organizations here, like we have Yakin Institute and like Dr. Omar Suleiman, and like trying to connect with members like that to be able to just get this information out and understand how important this is, and it's not two separate things, like sexuality education and Islamic education, that they can actually be together.
Right, great. And I noticed on your website you had a caption about there's two captions that really caught my eye. One was the let's talk about pleasure. Can you kind of expand on why you think speaking about pleasure is important, especially in relation to women?
Because I think, like I said before, I don't think women prioritize their pleasure enough. Like I said, it's always like, how do I make my man feel good? And how do I make sure that he wants me and only me and like this other thing. So it's just like, no, like let's take a moment and talk. And then when people think about sex, even as a nurse with my nursing background, it was always kind of like scientific, like, okay, you want to protect yourself from HIV and STDs and
Yeah.
kind of like that about pleasure at all. I didn't even know that was a thing until I went to like this school and I got my PhD in sex education. I was like, oh my gosh, like we're talking about that. I had no idea that this exists. Like we had to talk about like all these different things, and it really just, mashallah, opened my eyes. And I'm so grateful to Allah that He helped me, you know, go through that journey. Because I would have, I don't know if I would, maybe if I was reading the Taste of Honey, because that was another book, like a huge eye opener for me. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's in the. It's like, oh, like it was just amazing. Like all your books, like I said, mashallah, I am so grateful for you and all the books that you've written. And I always, 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 I cannot have like a class where I'm not talking about one of your books. And always like, this is a must that all Muslims should have these books, you know, in their house. And mashallah. So, and even imams and stuff too, because they didn't know about like the different references that you use. And it's just so, so, so thorough. So mashallah, may Allah reward you immensely for all you.
No, I appreciate that. No, I tried to. I'm glad that you know, like you're somewhat benefiting from my book because you're bringing it to life. Because it was always something that kind of did perplex me, that we've got this rich tradition of many scholars, you know, speaking about human sexuality and pleasure as well, especially prioritizing women's pleasure. But for some reason, in many Muslim communities, this is a taboo topic when that really wasn't the case for hundreds of years across different cultures. So, but then putting that information in the form of a book is one thing, but it needs people like yourself doing the great work you're doing to bring that to life and actually make it more practical and relevant for people's life, because it's not anything new that I've put down in paper what many scholars have said, but it's trying to make it relevant and kind of explain it for people to kind of relate and understand and feel proud that this is actually from our religion. So that's why, yeah, I do appreciate, like I said, the work that you're doing and the reels and the informative, the way you're educating people in different ways. Because I think that's also something that people can learn and be inspired by, that there's different ways to connect with people. It doesn't just have to be in the masajid, giving a sermon or writing a book or giving a lecture. Sometimes you need to maybe educate as well as entertain. So that's why, yeah, definitely kudos to you in the work that you're doing in that. The second caption slide I wanted to kind of touch upon, which I saw on your website, actually, and which struck me, was revolutionizing Islamic sex ed with a PhD. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that?
I think so. So, you know, we talked a lot about how we get this information to the Muslim community, but I think it's also important for other sexologists who are not Muslim, who are interacting with a lot of Muslim clients, also recognize the beauty and the importance of Islamic sex ed and what that looks like, and how, because I've gone to classes. I'm the only one who looks like me. I'm the only, you know, Muslim, the only hijabi. And at first, you know, all of my classmates stayed away from me. Like I was just by myself. Like nobody wanted to sit with me for lunch. Nobody wants to be they used to say, you know, you used to intimidate me. Like, why is she here? Like there's no for religion in sex education. It's like, what? It's like, so hearing me speak and hearing me share more about Islam and Islamic sex ed and what that looks like and what it can look like, really opened their eyes too. So now when they have Muslim clients, and even at my school at Whiting University, they said, do you have any books that can help our students with Islamic sex ed? And of course, I gave them a lot of your books I told them about. But the librarian reached out to me, and it's like, subhanAllah, like I was honored that you know, like that we opened that door. And then, you know, just sharing more about Islam to sexologists who are not Muslim and making it evidence based. So that was my key with making the Halal Sex Talks evidence based. That we did this study, that we looked at it to see, you know, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, how can we make it better, to really show sexologists who have that like scientific mind to look and say, okay, this is so now I can learn from this curriculum, and I can understand what Islam says about sex, and now I can help my clients, even though I'm not Muslim, because I know that if I try to teach them sex ed that doesn't comply with their beliefs and values, how that can actually be oppressive to them, and how I'm not making it better by giving them this type of sex ed that I may have taught to everyone else, how this is something important for them. Like they need that this type of sex education that has an Islamic foundation, and now they have a resource, and now they have, you know, this study and this information to go by to help them, you know, as help their Muslim clients navigate through their journeys.
Oh, mashallah. May Allah keep you steadfast and give you the strength and the courage to continue doing what you're doing. Because honestly, I love what you said. It's very important, especially even for non-Muslims who have, some non-Muslims, obviously not all, have a perception of Muslim women, all Muslim women being sexually repressed and not being able to vocalize or not even be able to like speak about such topics. And I'm glad that, that people like yourself visibly, you know, hijab wearing Muslim woman, and also speaking about the evidence base. So it's not just only speaking about your own experience, but also the studies that you've and the research that you've undertaken, and speaking about from your faith. I think that's quite important, and it can be very empowering not only for Muslims but also can be quite empowering for non-Muslims as well, because I don't think we should be shy to talk about our religious perspective. Like the same way when I asked you about whether non-Muslims are welcome, and you said, yeah, they're very much welcome, but you're clearly going to be speaking from your faith perspective. I don't think we should be apologetic about that. The same way we have other faith traditions, whether it's, and I always have to try to remind people that other sexologists and sex therapists, they also speak from many times from their own faith tradition, whether it's the 5 Love Languages, that's from a Christian perspective, still a great book, but it's clearly from a Christian perspective. The Kama Sutra from a Hindu perspective. We've got Esther Perel does great work, but again from a Jewish perspective. I don't think we as Muslims should feel uncomfortable or try to come speak about sex ed and our knowledge, but from an Islamic framework. So, and it's more empowering, I think, when it's coming from a Muslim woman, and especially a hijab wearing Muslim woman. So, yeah, again, more power to you with that. Is there anything else that, any other events or seminars or workshops that you've got upcoming that you want to promote and talk about? I've got a couple other questions, but I think some of the questions I want to direct people to your courses and your retreat. So those who can't attend your retreat, I think a number of the questions that I've received, they can be answered from purchasing one of your courses, so you don't have to answer those now.
Okay.
But are there any other, like you know, like I said, any other workshops or events or retreats, anything that you want to, or merchandise that you want to plug, that you want to promote? By all means, please.
No, I guess suggestions. Like we have the retreat coming up, inshallah, and I plan to continue to do that maybe annually, maybe biannually, like maybe twice a year. Especially now that I have time to do more. You know, with the PhD being done, I've been doing more counseling, so I plan to open up my calendar more for one-on-one counseling, because I feel like, you know, everyone wherever they are journey, stuff like that. But I'm right now I'm just primarily focusing on the retreat, and then inshallah more should be coming soon, like I said, in the coming months, inshallah. So I'm really excited about that.
So I'm trying to, I know they say men can't double task, but I'm trying to be comments. Someone's people can feel prudish around a veiled woman, a modest woman. Do you want to, has that been your experience? I know you mentioned when you've been to some sexology classes with non-Muslims, they felt uncomfortable, intimidated, you mentioned, around you. Do you know why that is, or can you shed any light or thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Why people
actually,
maybe feel, yeah.
when I'm thinking about specifically about the students who felt safe enough to tell me that they felt about me before they, you know, when they first saw me versus now, they share with me about their background. So a lot of them came from religious backgrounds themselves, and they kind of had like either they had some type of experience, maybe based off of their attractions were different, that was not accepted within their religion, and they felt like their family kind of completely shunned them and kind of kicked them out of the home, and they kind of always just blamed the religion for it. And but really having a chance to talk to me and kind of unpack what they were actually experiencing, help them understand, you know, to separate the difference between, you know, the religion versus what, you know, what humans did, helped. So I think that, so people kind of see, I can think sometimes when they see a Muslim woman, they may bring on their own experiences or their own baggage and kind of put that into the situation. So sometimes you just need to talk to people and be kind to people, even if they look a certain way, even if they appear a certain way. Like, you never know who's going to accept Islam, who's going to be open to your dawah. And I was able to connect to so many of my classmates who I think if they were to walk into a masjid, they would not be welcome. So I think it's important that we just talk to people and be and just help them just help understand, I think, people better. It definitely goes a long way.
MashaAllah. Sorry, there was a comment. I missed this one. So, sex talk has always been seen as taboo in Muslim spaces and communities when growing up. Alhamdulillah, in this day and age, we have great educators like yourself, obviously referring to you, MashaAllah, and the village auntie, so yeah, MashaAllah. My love reward you both for the work that you're doing. Yeah, again, like I said, I have been a follower and a fan or someone who's appreciated your work for many a year. And please continue doing what you're doing, because again, you're definitely empowering and inspiring many people. Actually, for those who are aspiring to become, I don't know, the Halal Sexpert .2 or like in their own way, what advice would you give to any woman who is thinking about teaching or studying human sexuality?
I would say, number one, make a lot of istikhara and pray about it first. But to remember your why. Like, my reason for really getting into this, like this second doctorate degree, I really didn't need it. Like I said, I already was pretty much set career-wise, but this was something I was really passionate about that I feel like the community needed. And I was praying and begging Allah, like, I really want to do this for the ummah, and I really want to do this to please you, ya Allah. Like, I really want to serve your creation. And of course, just base everything on Quran and Sunnah. So I need your help. I need your guidance. And alhamdulillah, I didn't have to take out any loans. I was able to, I was a professor at my school for some time as a nursing professor, and I was just in their sexuality program. But even when I left that job, I still was able to, afford it myself and not have to. So I was just really just asking, begging a lot to help me through this. And then remembering that, and even though I did this for my community at first, and still, everyone is not going to just welcome you with open arms. So it's still going to be difficult for a lot of Muslim people or people of faith to accept what you're saying, because they were already taught, have this baggage from their families or how they were raised, and different messages they received. So they may feel a certain way to hear even the name, the Halal Sexpert. Some people don't like that. Like, a lot of us are like, what? Like, what do you say? Like, I don't understand. Like, you can't do that. Like, that's haram. Like, whatever you're doing is haram. And it's like, no, like, let me explain to you and talk to you. And I'm okay. Alhamdulillah, Allah has really thickened my skin and thickened my ability to understand that, people are just don't know. Like, they don't know what you're bringing. But, he has uplifted me and really gave me the strength and the confidence and the passion to say, no, like, I put you in this space for a reason, and I gave you all this stuff, that you have to use it. So alhamdulillah, I'm definitely motivated to do more. But anyone who is interested in thinking about coming into this work, just to, you have to do more worship, ask Allah to help you, and remember why you're doing this. That, inshallah, my goal is to go to Jannah, inshallah, and I pray that's all of our motivations for life. But to use this as a means to, inshallah, to get there by helping his creation to understand this special piece of themselves. So that is my motivating factor. So you just need something special, and that it could be the same thing, but that's going to get you through those tough times.
Inshallah, very well said. Inshallah, may Allah accepts the work that you're doing, and inshallah be a form of sadaqah jariyah, continuous charity, and people can benefit not only in this world, but that you will benefit not only in this world, but the hereafter, inshallah. There's a couple of questions, and now I'm going to ask this one. Okay, someone's asked, and you're more than happy to free to, if you want to direct people to some of your courses with some of these questions, because I think some of your courses will answer them. If you want to answer, you may do. The first question is, how can we determine sexual compatibility in Islam as Muslims? Is it possible?
Yeah, before marriage, I think it's important to have conversations. So I always caveat or the caution of this conversation is that you have to have your intentions clear, and you should have an idea that yes, it shouldn't be the first conversation. You should have a strong, I guess, idea that inshallah you're going to marry this person. So maybe a date is set or something like that. And then you're having this conversation, even with the wali being present, I think is important. And your intentions for this conversation is to see, are we do we think that we can potentially be sexually compatible when we do get married? So I think I did a post about it somewhere on my page where I just said basic things like understanding first, doing a survey with yourself and saying, what are my thoughts and ideas about sex, or what are my expectations of what my sex life is going to look like with my future spouse? What are my expectations of my future spouse in regards to sex? Just basic things like that. What are some ideas that you have about different things, like for example oral sex or different type of sexual experiences? What do you think about that personally? And then you can ask about what does your future spouse think about that. So you can even start having some basic conversations about that. But I would keep it to that way. So all of this conversation is specifically for inshallah when we do get married, and we're trying to just feel if inshallah be compatible. But there's no pictures that needs to be shown. There's no touching or anything like that needs to happen. But I think just that basic conversation is important to have once you're in kind of the latter stages of your courting process.
Just wondering, actually, out of curiosity, because one of the things that struck me from this live is, in a good way, you've constantly referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm just wondering, was you raised in a very and I was used religious in a good sense, in the sense of having a strong faith environment growing up?
So yes.
Yeah.
Yes, my parents were not in regards to talking about sex. Even now, even talking to my father about it is kind of
I mean, just faith five. Yeah, I'm just faith five.
But yes, we're very
good.
Making sure that we had a strong foundation. We were praying in the house. We were doing different things, going to different events. It was really, really important to us as a family.
No, I can detect that. So when, for example, you're having people, I mean, I'm just wondering, did that help you develop the thick skin as well as dealing with the naysayers, where people come in and maybe shocked by the work that you're doing, and because like you said, you've made plenty istikhara, plenty prayer, you've got that connection with Allah. Did that help you in terms of not? Because I find that a number of people they're worried about what people will say. Mm-hmm. As opposed to if they have got conviction, they believe that, okay, what they're doing is correct, and they've heard from people that it's perfectly permissible. But I've heard I find that a lot of people, they're more worried about what maybe community or other people say, as opposed to what they believe is actually correct or the right thing to do. So I'm wondering if your faith has helped, in terms of your strong upbringing, kind of give you that resolve to kind of continue pursuing what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Because I would about other people said about me, I would have stopped a long time ago. Because it happens all the time. It still happens. But like I said, I know why I'm doing this. I know I'm doing this to please Allah. If it is something that I feel like is going to help me, then I do listen. But most of the times when people have things to say, I say, okay, we can have a conversation. A lot of it has to do with just them not being educated about what sex education is and what Islamic sex education is and what Allah says and what his messenger said. So being able to help them is important. Yeah.
No, I think that's very important because I do find that people are more often concerned about what other people will think, even if they know that what they're doing is inshallah beneficial and things like that. So that was one of the things that I did notice, that because you always reference Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is it's amazing. Another question. Someone says, is there a difference between having an orgasm and climax? Is there a difference? Or?
It depends on how you're defining them, because I think a lot of times, sometimes we use these different terms and we don't know how to define them ourselves. So I know some people use them interchangeably, but it really depends on, I guess, where you're coming from. But orgasm is your muscles contracting and releasing. If you're talking about squirting or like female or ejaculation is more like this release of fluid where you don't necessarily have to have an orgasm to experience it. They can happen at the same time, but they can happen differently. I guess I would really have to ask more about like what they're really asking, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other questions, but if you don't mind, just because I'm conscious of time and I need to go and pray Maghrib. I want to, if you don't mind, answer the questions for you, unless you want to chime in. So the first question was, how to be more confident in the bedroom. Sex is lit, but some days I can't. I find myself really shy, especially when the bedroom lights are on. So that's the question. My answer is either sign up to your literacy course or talk dirty to me course, and if you can attend the sexual wellness event in July on the 25th to the 27th.
Yes,
If you don't mind, Sat.
yes, inshallah.
And then the next question is, okay, female. Will my longer than average teeth affect kissing and oral sex? Tips to help. Jazakallah khairan. I'll answer for that for you if you don't mind.
Yes.
Yes, you can purchase the book, but what that mouth do course, which is a course for women only about oral sex and how to perform fellatio. So that's that answer. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, alhamdulillah. Is there anything else again just before we sign out? Yeah, anything else again? And before we finish, do you mind again giving a quick overview in terms of the upcoming retreat on the 25th to the 27th, where it's going to be held and how people can purchase tickets and what you'll be covering?
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, we have our 4th annual Reclaiming Me retreat that is happening July 25th to July 27th in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. We still have just a few spots left for you to join us. You can either come to just a 3-day pass that doesn't include like overnight lodging, and then we also have the 3-day pass with accommodations, and we have a few spots left for that. In the course, I will be teaching you how to become your best spiritual and sexual self. So some of the names of the courses, I'm teaching a course about sensual sexual secrets. We will also have some dance instructors there to teach us how to better connect with our bodies through movement. We're also doing a class called, a BDSM and kink dominatrix dancing class for Muslims. It's also going to be really fun and interactive. We're also doing a course called What You Crave, which is all about female pleasure. It's similar to clitoracy, but it has a lot added to it about desire and female desire, which a lot of sisters have had questions about and questioning themselves about, that also may affect their confidence and how they feel about themselves. So that is a really fun interactive course. All my courses are interactive and fun, not really lecture-y, because I like you to, really take away. And I think as adults, we learn a lot by doing. So either, different techniques that we'll have that are fun and engaging in the class. And yeah, we have yoni steaming. We have sexual rejuvenation yoga that we'll do one in the mornings. Just a lot of different sexual confidence building activities. So like the sister said, who was having issues with, sexual confidence in the bedroom. So all of those different points I think is so important for us to grow as women will be in the course. It is for married and single women. You can get your register through my website, thehalalsexpert.com. You can also go to the link directly, is in my bio. We have the link for just a 3-day pass if you live locally in Atlanta. You can also fly in, because we'll have probably more of those left in accommodations. We only have actually 3 more spots in the accommodation house, but we have a few more spots in that with the 3-day passes. So definitely you need to come. I'm so excited to be able to offer this for everyone, here in the 4th time, alhamdulillah. So definitely, inshallah, definitely join. Come, and then I will meet you there, inshallah.
So just the last thing before we close off. Do you also work with, I know you mentioned you've done some, I think, events with non-Muslim sexologists. If someone who's not from the Islamic faith wants to reach out to you, who's also like a sexologist, to learn more about the work, what's the best way they can contact you and reach out to you?
Oh yeah, so on you can either go to my website. We have a contact page, or you can say contact us, and that goes directly to my email. But also my email address is Shaakira, SHAAKIRA, at thehalalsexpert.com. I think the easiest way just to go to thehalalsexpert.com, and you can go to contact us, and then whatever message you put in there goes directly to my team's email, so I will see it.
Shukran, thank you. No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Shaakira.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so
All the best
much.
with your upcoming retreat.
Yes.
Please, continue doing what you're doing. I will save this live, and then obviously I'll add where people obviously can go to your website, and then obviously everything's on your website as well as obviously your IG page. But thank you again for your time, and thank you everyone for joining. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, everyone.